Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this first session of the summit on the topic delivering ESGRC. I'm Marco Icardi. I'm running the European organization at Metric Stream, and today I have the pleasure to introduce our first guest speaker, Elena Mocchio. Welcome, Elena, and thank you for joining us at the summit.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Well, Elena Mocchio is Head of Innovation and Development at UNI, the Italian national standards body. At first international assistant in the technical department, in 2004, she became National European Technical Officer in different sectors. She is now in charge of the development of innovation and projects in new emerging fields, with particular attention to sustainability and social responsibility. Today, as anticipated by our CEO, Bruce Dahlgren, the focus of the summit will be on an integrated approach, embracing environmental and social aspects, and connecting them to the governance, risk, and compliance. Elena, at UNI, working on the definition of standards and technical regulations the company should follow to be certified, you are deeply involved in shaping the future direction on different industry sectors. We can consider UNI as a regulatory body on one side, but also as a company with their internal complexity and standards and compliance activities. Can you provide more insights on the activity UNI is covering today?
Yes, Marco. Well, UNI is the Italian standardization body, as you said, and we develop standards, which are technical documents. And we work on all sectors, with the exception of the electric and electrical one. But what is important is also that we belong to a broader context of standardization, which means that we represent Italy at European level in SEN, where we develop European standards, and we represent Italy in the international context, which means ISO, which probably is more familiar. What we do is support the market by managing the standardization process. Take into account that it's the market that drives the content of standards. So somehow standards are developed by the market for the market. And when I talk about market, I mean all the different stakeholders. Standards are voluntary, so they are not obliged to apply a standard, but of course they can be used by the legislator in order to support its activity. And what is important is that they are developed by all interested stakeholders on the basis of consensus. And so they are a kind of result of a co-creation process where citizens and consumers, as well as companies, industry, and public administration at all levels, and university and research and innovation operators are involved. So UNI is, as all the other standardization body around Europe and world, it's a multi-stakeholder platform. And in this sense, we contribute somehow to an open dialogue where public and private sector meets and collaborate. As you said, in fact, UNI is also, we are a company. We are more an association and not for-profit association, but we have the complexity of a company. And as you said, as a company, we are also using standards. And in particular, we are using standards in order to define our governance on what concerns the social responsibility. And what we are using is the ISO 26000, which is a guidance on social responsibility. So we are deeply engaged, let's say, as a company from one side, but also as a regulatory body, as you said, on the different aspects of sustainability. And standards can be a very important tool in this sense because they really can provide an harmonized approach and they can help to identify common requirements for products, for services and organizations. And they can also define indicators. So they are a really interesting way to measure and to test and to guarantee also interoperability. So they are using standards is also a way to avoid also the phenomena of the social washing or green washing, because they provide specific requirements which can be really followed by different companies and different organizations. And well, we also have some examples. I will maybe mention them later on, but in the last few years, there are very specific standards addressing the issue of green and social washing, and they are addressing the issue of the ethical claims. As I said, well, yes, UNI is really engaged in sustainability and in measuring also its impact on the different stakeholders at national and a little bit also at international level.
Thank you, Elena, for these insights. Yes, and I think the combination of being a regulatory body on one side, but also a company with the internal standards and compliance and regulations is a very relevant aspect. Well, BlackRock CEO announced in 2020 that climate change and investment decisions surrounding it could lead to a fundamental reshaping of finance. In your role of head of innovation and development in UNI, you have the responsibility to drive the standards of the future. Let me put it this way. The increased attention on environmental and social topics has a major impact on how companies are defining their priorities. And this was something that you were already referring in your first part of the dialogue. How are these considerations addressed in your activity?
Well, yes, sustainability is a key word nowadays. So there are many different activities we are carrying out as new standardization activities in terms of developing standards in support of the different aspects of sustainability. Which means that in the last few years we develop specific standards, but also we open as a standardization system some technical committees dealing in particular with circular economy, for example, climate change, sustainable cities and communities, and these are only the very few examples of the last few, let's say, months. So we are really addressing the issue of sustainability from very different point of views, and together with the development, with the creation of specific technical committees, we also develop standards in existing technical committees dealing with the different aspects of sustainability. And for example, one of the last standards published is the ISO 3145, relevant to diversity and inclusion. But we can also talk about the ISO standards on occupational health and safety management, which again it's an important part of sustainability. We are talking in this case about social sustainability, where the psychological health and safety issues work are addressed, dealing with the management of psychological risk, which after the pandemic during and after the pandemic may be a really important issue to address. So these are only few examples on how standardization can support and will support, because the activity is ongoing, and we are keeping working on different subjects. And I must admit that it's not only, well, innovation, it's not only from the point of view of a technological innovation, but it's really addressing and dealing with social innovation, together with a new approach to compliance and to risk.
Thank you, Elena. And you are really addressing one of the points we are talking about during this summit. As you know, we are launching our new solution covering ESG. And we think it's a natural extension to the activities we have already been doing in the governance, risk, and compliance. For this reason, we call the solution ESGRC. We have been discussing between the two of us in the past how sustainability and risk are linked together and should be part of a single perspective for the company objectives. Can you elaborate further on these points with your personal view and experience?
Yes, well, the approach to risk and risk assessment and risk evaluation and the management of risk is a key point when addressing sustainability. Uh, this because talking about risk and putting risk together with the different aspects of sustainability means to give an added value to the approach to sustainability, because sometimes companies see addressing sustainability more as something which is more an expense than an advantage. But if you change the perspective and you use the sustainability, and well, I must say also the approach to social responsibility, which means addressing the issue of impacts of different companies, of different organizations on their stakeholder, and taking into account also the aspect related to risk, is a way to avoid possible problems for the future. So it's quite important to address and to change and to add, let's say, to add to the approach to sustainability also the aspect related to risk and compliance. We have a number of examples on standards which are addressing, which are providing guidance for addressing the risk. For example, we have an ISO standard which deals with the approach to the adaptation to climate change, for example, and there are guidelines on vulnerability, impacts, and risk assessment linked to climate change. Or there is a guidance which is linked to the management, to risk management of legal risk. Again, it's something which is really, really interesting. And there's also a document dealing with the management system for risk, which is the basis of many of the other documents I mentioned before. And there's another document which I think it's very important, and now we are going to the side of the compliance, and it's the ISO standard dealing with the compliance management system, and it's a document which provides a guidance to address the issue of compliance and to manage compliance. So in the reality, it's important to have an integrated approach. Which means that you have to take into account as a whole the different aspects of sustainability, adding risk and compliance as something more to be considered and to be addressed by a company, by an organization. And the integrated approach and the holistic approach is, I think, the most important way to address sustainability as a whole. As UNI, we are trying to do this as organization, I mean, and we are working in order to bring together different reporting activities and our different activities. And what we will do in the future, we tried to do it this year and with reference to the past year, to last year, but now we are doing it in a more structured way, and it's to include in our sustainability report many different aspects. So not only the aspect linked to the social and the the social, environmental, and the governance issues, approaches, but also including approaches we are taking into account for the risk and the compliance. So what we are going to do in the next future, I hope to be able to present you sometimes next year our sustainability report with a new structure. So a new sustainability report dealing with the different aspects of sustainability, including risk and compliance.
Yeah. And thank you, Elena. This was great because it's going really in our direction of an integrated view on risk management. And we are working also with many companies on a quantified risk assessment integrated from the perspective of the company. We are both involved on the Italian business market now to promote inclusion and diversity, and we met because we were working on this subject. In Italy, compared to the rest of Europe, we still have a gap to close. And what are the initiatives that you are driving to support these goals? Now that we have our PNR, the recovery plan for Italy is a big opportunity for us, I think, to move into this direction.
Yes, well, what we are trying to do is really to, well, use, maybe it's not the correct word, well, yes, to make the best of the recovery and resilience plan in order to improve it, well, to fill the gap, let's say, that Italy has. Above all, in relation to the approach of gender equality and on other social aspects. And being somehow regulators, well, we are not the regulator as a legislator, but well, providing regulation somehow and providing guidance to different companies and organizations. What we are trying to do is to make the regulator more aware of existence of standards, which can support to restart the different activities in the country, and to somehow provide measures, information on also on a cultural point of view. It's a cultural change what we need to do, and it's cultural, and at the same time, so we have two aspects: the cultural one and the really operational one, linked to what we have to do, action that we have to do. And I think it's very important to make the best of all the different tools we have. And standards are one tool that can be used by the market. They are there, they are published, they are available. They, as I said, they are written by market players for the market players. And I would like to underline that among the different stakeholders writing standards, there are also the public administrations. So it's quite important to create this link and to promote the use of standards in order to let's say, it's a great opportunity. So to promote the use of standards, to make a change, a cultural change, also a cultural change.
And I think that's important. We still have 1 minute, and we have a question from the audience. What do you see as the next big trend in the ESG and the GRC space?
Well, this is a very interesting question. Well, I think that What we will need to address in the future will be something linked to ethical approach. I know it sounds a little bit strange, but I think that an organization to be really sustainable needs also to have an ethical approach to its activities and to deeply involve the people working in the organization, um, well, engaging them somehow with a strong commitment. And I think that ethic will be one of a main issue we will need to address, because it's a key point to make a change.
I fully agree, and also with the expansion of usage of artificial intelligence in our daily life, the ethic of artificial intelligence as well will be very relevant for us. Elena, thank you
Yeah.
again for your special contribution to the summit and for the ideas you shared with the audience and with all of us today. Thank you. Really appreciated your contribution. Goodbye to everyone. Have a great summit. Next session is on our new ESGRC solution, and I leave the stage to Sean Wong. Thank you.